The countdown to London Marathon is officially on, and those of you who are taking part are probably easing your way or maybe hurling your way into your final few weeks of training, hoping that this gorgeous spring weather will be with you around that course on April the 26th. Each week leading to that run, our guest will be giving his top tips for marathon preparation. So joining me now is Arj Thiruchelvam. He is the UK-based performance coach, running coach, nutritionist, and founder of Performance Physique. Afternoon to you.
Hi, Nikki. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. So, I mean, in terms of what people should be doing at this stage, what kind of tips do you have?
Yeah, so we're 3 weeks to go, 19 days, and it's getting very real, isn't it, really, at this point in the marathon journey. The first thing that we should all be focusing on right now is that actually over the last few days, the organisers have released bib numbers, race start times, and waves. So check your inboxes, make sure you have an idea of your starting procedure. You know, that's something we can really easily control and something that we can start preparing for right now. So it's not one of these physical things. It's more of a logistics for the big day, but it's certainly going to make a difference if you know where you need to be nice and early.
And so what is training your gut? Because we are so many questions following last week's show.
Yeah. So to be honest, I was absolutely inundated after the show last week of questions. So I will do my best to get through absolutely everything. But training the gut is this thing that we actually need to do, which many of us think actually is just going to happen naturally. Training the gut is about preparing your stomach and your intestines for the journey of 26.2 miles of taking on fuel. We've trained our body, we're training our legs and our lungs. However, many of us won't have necessarily prepared so much with energy gels and drinks, isotonic drinks, those kind of things. And that is where training the gut comes in. And last week I mentioned that a true journey of training the gut takes around 6 weeks. We still have 3 weeks to go, so you still have time to make some preparations. But it's about understanding just how much of the energy gels can you take on board without developing nausea or stomach cramps. And this is quite a significant thing, because we know the limiting factor based on all the evidence of endurance-based science is not necessarily how long you've been on your feet for, but it's actually how much energy have you taken on board during the event to allow your legs to continue going and going and going. And even though this is incredibly individualized, there are some really generic starting points that we can use those as guidelines for everyone listening, realistically. So fueling with an energy gel, no matter what brand, realistically can start at around 35 minutes into the marathon, so quite early on. And then if we use that as our guide from there onwards, 35 minutes to 40 minutes, every single one of those chunks of time, taking on some energy gel or an isotonic drink will really help you have the best chance of crossing the finish line in the least amount of pain. I can't promise it won't be painful slightly, though.
So, Arj, forgive my rudimentary question here. There will be people listening who've never run a marathon, but who are fascinated by the knowledge people need to have in place, who'll be thinking, hang on a minute, before we had little packets of energy gel, what do people do before that? And so how important is it if you are just kind of jogging around that 26 miles and you're not running hard for your PB?
Yeah, I mean, those are really fair points. And one of the questions someone actually sent in was, can I not just do this on water? And there's no denying that.
And some pasta the night before.
Yeah, pasta party time, isn't it?
Yes.
There's no denying it has been done and it will continue to be done. It isn't the safest and the best way to do things, though. And even if you're not racing for that duration of time, you will exhaust the amount of glycogen, and that's how we store glucose or carbohydrates in our bodies as glycogen. You will exhaust that amount by around mile 20, no matter if you're racing it or you're just going for a gentle jog.
Okay.
So ideally, gels and isotonic drinks are the best way, but you'll see people taking, packets of nice sweets to enjoy, maybe something a little bit more enjoyable than some of the gloopy gels.
Okay, so if people have only got 3 weeks left, you think they've still got enough time to start training their gut. How are you training that? What are you doing over these 3 weeks? Practicing with the gels?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So last week I was really asking all of the listeners, who are running the London Marathon to actually settle on the energy gel of their choice. They all differ slightly. There are some which are very high carbohydrate amount and some which are slightly lower. Choose the one which really suits you, and it does matter what it tastes like as well. And then on every single run, you're now going to go out and take an energy gel with you. So whilst you're running, you're practicing opening a gel and you're taking it on board while still moving. That's the ideal circumstance.
Okay.
And as we build up over those last couple of weeks, trying to take on maybe more than one just in an hour.
Arj, it's a really nice day out there in London. Tomorrow, some areas of London are potentially going to go up to 24 degrees.
Yeah.
If it ends up being a very hot day on the 26th, what special advice do you have? Do you need more electrolytes in those packets? Do you need to keep applying sunscreen? What's your advice about the heat?
Yeah, I don't know how many of you remember or yourself, Nikki, but last year was incredibly hot. It was actually the second hottest London Marathon on record. So there is a high chance that the same is going to occur this year. And with that in mind, hydration is absolutely key. Hydration actually above anything else realistically. So if you can ensure that as you go around the course, there's numerous water stations. I think it's every 2 to 3 miles there's going to be a water station, and energy stops, about 6 of them along the route. Every single opportunity you have to take on board some water, you do so. It's very difficult to take on large amounts, but making a conscious effort to take on every single time you pass one of the fueling tables, that's a really good way of doing it. And then, yeah, absolutely, applying sunscreen. I'm not sure how many of the runners will actually have sunscreen on them, but making sure you apply something high factor at the start of the day and taking a cap and actually wetting that cap with cold water when you head out for your starting wave can make a real big difference. But when you think of all those different water tables along the course, there's an easy way of just trying to remember what you've got coming up. And it's just to take a marker pen and pop it on your hand, and maybe some of the key landmarks those water tables will be located at.
A marker pen, all these packets. What? You needed like a safari jacket full of pockets, presumably, don't you?
It really is starting to look that way, actually, some years. And I feel for those runners, because I am definitely a minimalist when it comes down to running. I like to just walk out the front door and get running, to be honest.
Do you? So if you were... are you training right now? I don't think you are this year, are you? Are you training other people?
I am not crazy, Nikki. I've got 6 or 7.
I'm not either. And I have to say, I was saying to Eddie, because Eddie's done the marathon, that yes. I wouldn't do it. I don't want to damage my knees, my back, etc. I am a runner. I love to run. But I would say I'm a smooth jogger, not a hard runner. And I'm the one person you see along the riverbank who's really enjoying themselves rather than going with their jaw clenched. But what if you have an injury at this point during your training?
Yeah, this is something which will start to crop up inevitably for quite a few runners. And I had a couple of messages about this, actually. At this point in time, we've got 3 weeks. You can still manage an injury. What's really important is that we don't try and run through things at this late stage. It's only going to get worse. So it's about taking a step back, evaluating it, and ideally speaking to a physiotherapist or a health professional at least to try and guide your recovery. There was one lady who reached out and said, she had a final longest run, and at 15 kilometers she had to stop with knee pain. Does she reattempt that going forwards? No. The priority realistically should be just continuing with your plan and strengthening that knee. So if that's your example injury, address that first. Make sure you're as fit as possible physically, because your fitness isn't really going to change that dramatically over the next 3 weeks now.
So morning guidance was something I thought you were going to talk about, and I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah. I
need that every morning, to be fair, Arj.
Morning guidance is something that we do to maximize our opportunities on the day and minimize risk. And one of these being the logistics of knowing where you need to go for the start line, reducing the anxiety of that, minimizing the chance of perhaps forgetting an item of your clothing. But then I know that sounds ridiculous, but you need to take an extra top, etc., to go on your on top of your running jersey on the morning, because it's probably going to be a little bit colder. And then I think it's Salvation Army who are going to collect any of those tops left behind and put them to good charitable use. And then also morning guidance entails what you should be doing to supplement your fueling. So we spoke about making sure we take energy on during the marathon, but we can also maximize that after our breakfast. So some juice, water, and maybe a coffee if you normally have coffee around 3 hours pre-race time. And then between 2 hours and 30 minutes before the race beginning, also just sipping on an isotonic drink. We're all familiar with those major brands. One of them sponsoring the London Marathon this year, and they usually do. Just sipping on one of those just keeps topping up our energy stores ready for the big race ahead of you.
Arj, thank you so very much for your expertise. And I look forward to being a listener next week at this time and hearing more of your tips. So thank you so very much.
It's my pleasure.
And good luck to everybody running the marathon this year.